Hey guys, hello, it's Chat with Matt. I'm outside for a change. Hopefully my reception's going to be good. Again, we're out of power here. Let me take my glasses off because they're bloody annoying. Yeah, power went out again about an hour ago. Hello, Sister Sylvie. So I'm running on batteries, which is okay. Hey, Sister Robin, hello. I do need my glasses sometimes because that's hard to read, but so it's Chat with Matt. I've lost count of episodes. I'm not sure if it's episode 6 or episode 7. I will find out and put it on top when I get there. I was running late. So here to talk about a couple of things. I've got two great points of inspiration. I will put a date on this. It is the 13th of February 2019. It's Chat with Matt here on the Mantara normal public page. So, it is episode 7. Thank you very much, Sylvie. It's great to have a secretary. Episode 7 of Chat with Matt. So, here we go, my friends. We're going to talk about shame. That's a shame, isn't it? To bring the mood down. No, it's a very, very important topic, and it's not going to bring the mood down at all because it's time, right? It's time for many of us to acknowledge that we're carrying shame so that we can release our shame about feeling ashamed, because that's what's causing most of the problem. I've just realized I've left the hose running, but anyway, I'm watering the garden at the same time. Point is right, a lot of us are carrying shame. I'm going to start by first, and I'm going to choose not to talk so quickly, although I do know I only got half an hour. And I have got my laptop here to tell me what time it is and to read a question when I get there, hopefully from Jen. So first of all, let's just clarify what shame is, because a lot of people get it mixed up with guilt. And there's two completely, well, not necessarily completely different things. They are two very heavy emotions, that is for sure, very heavy vibrations. But shame is basically when we feel that we are not good enough, or worse than that, or quote unquote worse than that. There's different flavors of it, right? I'm not good enough, I'm bad or wrong, I'm evil. People have different levels of shame, and perhaps I'll come back to talk about that. But it's all centered, shame is all centered on the self. It is me that is wrong, it is me that is bad. Guilt, on the other hand, is focused more on an action you have done. I feel guilty that, or not done, right? But it's the attention or the emotion is more centered in an external action point. So I feel guilty that I forgot it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. I don't, but I'm just trying to pick up some rubbish, right? So guilt is, I'm guilty that I haven't managed to give my children more love. I'm guilty that I haven't managed to give my children more money. I'm guilty that I feel guilty that I can't manage to overcome my shame, right? Because the guilt is on the overcoming. The shame is the fact that I'm useless or worthless or not good enough, right? So many people, of course, if you are ashamed of yourself, then it's very easy to also feel guilty about what you are doing or what you are not doing. So the two definitely go together. And also, if we've done something that we perceive as bad, because understanding, of course, that we feel guilty about things that we believe is wrong. Not that they're inherently wrong, because nothing is either wrong or right. So you must understand, you don't must understand, but it's going to serve you, in my belief, to understand that nothing is inherently wrong in terms of an action. Now you might say, but what about murder? What about this? Right, I know there's all of those whatabouts. They are all belief systems based on perception and training and indoctrination of our society and what you believe, your moralistic view on the world. All of that stuff is not, in my opinion anyway, is not being upheld by some higher power, right? In my opinion, there is no judgmental God that is setting down the rules of what is right and what is wrong. We are all aspects of God here on this planet, having an experience to thus allow God, which is the collection of all of us, to keep expanding in its wisdom base, because it is through experiences that we gain wisdom. All of the teaching, all of the listening, all of the learning of stuff that other people are professing is not wisdom. It is just pure bloody tracks in the brain. It is neural pathways of remembering knowledge that we haven't even experienced. Anyway, my friends, let's not lose track. We're talking here about shame. So, where am I going next? I want to start talking about why we feel ashamed so that we can understand that it's not, quote-unquote, our fault, right? That we should not feel, or it's not serving us to feel ashamed that we're ashamed, right? Because that is what many of us are caught up in, the shame around our shame, wanting to hide the fact that we're holding shame is not helping us release it. And thus, it's, we've got these layers of shame and guilt, right, that we have suppressed is the word. We've suppressed it into our being, and it's dense. It's really, really dense. Now, the problem with trying to hold dense things within us is that it's getting more and more uncomfortable. As the vibration of our surroundings, Mother Earth, our society itself, even believe it or not, our society is actually raising in vibration, even though it looks like it's going to the dogs. That's the process. Unfortunately, change for the better involves a releasing of the density. And so what we're seeing society go through now is exactly what we're all going through personally, which is our vibration is rising as we're all ascending, and our SH1T, our shit, is coming out to be released. And it's messy. It's messy as this stuff comes to the surface. So a lot of our guilts and our shames are up right now for us individually and for us as a society. A lot of the stuff that's been hidden from our society is coming into view to be recognized, to be accepted, and to most importantly be released. Now, the process of release is an interesting one because it doesn't happen through making things wrong and fighting against them. That doesn't release them at all. That actually empowers them to stay because now they have reason for being here. They're now the focal point of a fight, and that can't go away while people are still wanting to fight. And unfortunately, many of us are feeling the discordance within us, and we want to project it outside of ourselves. We don't want to own the shame that we're feeling, which is inside of us. And I know I need to get to the point as why we're carrying the shame within us, and I'm going to get there. It's basically past life crap. But so understanding that we're carrying this shame within us, it's coming to the surface and we go, oh my God, why am I feeling so ashamed? It must be because my society is so shit, right? And so now we're projecting it out. And a lot of us are changing the shame that we're feeling inside of us and choosing to justify it with guilt. So what do I mean by that? I mean, we're feeling something inside of us that's uneasy. We don't feel good about ourselves. We don't feel good enough about ourselves. We don't feel that we're right. We don't feel that we're enough. And so the mind, of course, wants to understand why. And so we look for a reason. Now, we don't see that it's just shit left in our past, in our energetic field from the past. We don't understand that we're carrying energies from our past. And so this vibration of not good enough or bad or wrong or whatever nuance of shame we have within us, we're trying to justify. So we look for things that we've done wrong. We try and change it into guilt. We try and say, I'm feeling this way because I'm guilty about not earning enough money. I'm guilty about not reaching the levels of success that my parents wanted me to, or my friends have managed to achieve, or whatever. So we look for reasons to justify our shame and somehow we're trying to change it into guilt, but all we really do is add guilt on top of the fact that we're not feeling good enough or not feeling enough or feeling bad or wrong or worthless, useless, hopeless vibrations within us. I know, I've danced with this my whole life. From the get-go, I have not felt enough inside myself, and it has, molded who I am in many, many ways. The people pleaser, the ambition that I have, and a lot of people say, well, that's great, all of that ambition, but it's not so great when you realize that it's coming from a need to try and overcome feeling ashamed of yourself, right? The society values the ambition because it means you become a great producer and consumer of goods and energy, which is what runs our economy. But from a health point of view, from a happiness point of view, when you are just trying to disprove or minimize the shame and the guilt that you're feeling from within inside yourself by achieving all of these things, you realize you're on a treadmill. Because the truth is, and many people have found out now, that it doesn't matter how high you climb on the ladder of success, that the deep driver of shame doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. You set yourself a goal thinking that this shame will go away once I have become a millionaire, once I have found the love of my life, once we have had children, once we've owned our own home, we've paid off the mortgage, once we've done all of these different things that we think, once I've achieved that sporting endeavor, whatever it is, you get there and you realize that the shame is still within you because you haven't been willing to look at it and own it for what it is. You haven't been willing to own the fact that you are feeling not good enough about yourself inherently. Not that you're inherently wrong, it's that you, the personality who's witnessing this sensation from within you, is not feeling enough. I'm glad you're enjoying the warmth here. It's not actually that warm, it's overcast and a little bit windy, and I was just hoping that the wind noise wasn't too bad in the microphone. But yeah, it's t-shirts outside, it's 20 degrees or so Celsius. Anyway, so please, my friends, the way to move forward with this is to choose to stop fighting against shame. It's to choose to stop making yourself wrong for feeling shame, right? Beating yourself up for feeling beat up is not going to solve the problem, right? And making yourself wrong about feeling shameful is not going to help you release your shame. What is going to help is if you can accept that it's there as a vibration and that you haven't done anything inherently wrong, especially in this lifetime generally. You may be feeling guilty about things that you have or haven't achieved, and that's fine. Then that's fine. But it doesn't help you to carry this stuff. So the first step is to breathe nice and deep and choose to allow yourself to really relax into feeling the shame without feeling ashamed that you're feeling shame. Not making yourself wrong. A lot of people think it's very unspiritual to feel ashamed. A lot of people will feel that it's very wrong in society's terms, that wants us to all be confident in an external way, all wants us to act, perfectly. Our society wants us to, we're projected towards us the rightness of being in our confidence and being very, I'll use the word cocky, right? Thinking that whatever we do is good, right, and proper. Well, I'm not, a delicate line here between mentally trying to do this and allowing ourselves to fall into a space where from our heart we know that we are, no matter what we're feeling or whatever's going on, we are good, right, and proper. So it's a path, allowing ourselves to overcome our shame and to really embrace the love that we are from within ourselves, to really embrace the truth of who we are, for me, is not a quick fix. I know, I would love to say that in releasing some of these past life experiences, which I do a lot of with clients, right, helping to clear them out of their experiences they've had in the past, using their higher self or inviting their higher self. We don't really use higher selves, we invite higher selves to help clear the discordance that's still held in the field due to past life experiences, so that you can be more inherently free from those drivers, those emotional drivers, those fragments of trauma in your field, so that it could all so that it all clears. I'm trying to get to the point of whether this talk about the weather is to do with shame and guilt, MK. Snow. We've got freezing rain coming on top of our snow right now. Great. Oh, I see. You're replying to Robin. I only get some of the comments, which makes it very interesting for me to watch comments fly by because I didn't see Robin's comment. Anyway, you guys just go right on ahead and chat about the weather as we talk about shame and guilt. And I'm not trying to shame and guilt you, by the way. It's just interesting. Anyway, it may be a diversion tactic on your part to avoid actually looking at what we're talking about here, which is owning the fact that most of us, especially those of us who are more mature, are at the moment purging and releasing and becoming very aware of the various nuances of shame and guilt that we're carrying within us. And for some of us, that process is very uneasy. It's a difficult process to go through, owning the fact that we're feeling ashamed of ourselves because there's somehow a wrongness associated with that. But until you're willing to really embrace this process, it's basically a maturation, right? To look at our own shit is a process of growing up spiritually so that we can release all of this guilt and shame slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. It's not a point of we need to release our guilt and shame before we can start acting in good, right, proper ways, before we can start acting in spiritual ways, before we can start acting in empowered ways, right? I am becoming more and more empowered in myself, and still I carry shame from my past. Still I carry this vibration that is not justifiable in what I have achieved in this life. I'm achieved so much in my life. There is no good reason why I still carry these feelings of not good enough. But it's sorry, MK, every time I read these comments, it puts me off what I'm trying to deliver. No, I'm not asking people to stop commenting, but if you're going to comment, it's great that you comment in something that is going to add to, or at least inspire me to deliver content. So I've lost it, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm trusting that you guys are all getting it. It's energetic more than informational. But the process is not to think that you need to clear all of your stuff before you can be empowered, right? It's not that you need to overcome your shame before you can start living an empowered life. Trust that as you start living more and more from an empowered space, that you are going to work through the process of overcoming, stepping past these vibrations of shame and guilt that you're carrying from your past. And it's not that you need to clear them away before you can act. It's the fact that they will just diminish over time when you stop allowing them to run your life. When you stop allowing the shame that you feel from within you, that you know is not justifiable, to start influencing what you're willing to step forward into. Whoop. That was a comment and it flipped on by. When I view guilt as anger and or sadness, it's easier for me to feel sadness and anger than release it and then release it. I can't release guilt. Well, first of all, Meg, I'd suggest that you can release guilt, even if you've had trouble doing it in the past. So, making a statement that I can't release guilt is not going to serve you, and I'd encourage you to rephrase that in the fact that, and say more to the point, I've had trouble releasing guilt in the past. And that when you allow yourself to experience the anger that comes up as a response to feeling guilty, or the sadness, the hopelessness that comes up as a response to feeling guilty or ashamed, then you can work with those vibrations and release those much more easily. But I would encourage you to understand that as you do release those angers and those sadnesses that you feel around the vibration of I've done something wrong, or I am inherently wrong, right? Guilt is I've done something wrong. What's the other word? I've lost it. What are we talking about? Shame. Shame. And shame is I am wrong for having done something wrong. When you start releasing the vibrations that stirs up, the anger and the sadness and the hopelessness, you are in fact releasing the guilt. the interesting thing about releasing is it doesn't happen through effort. So saying, wow, I feel this guilt, I want to release it, isn't going to help, right? All you need to do to allow the process of release occur is to accept that you're feeling guilty right now, and to accept that that vibration is within you, and to accept that carrying it is not going to serve you. And you just take a deep breath and you just find space. You know, basically all you're doing is, through that process of accepting the fact that you're feeling guilty about something that you've done, or feeling ashamed about yourself for having done something, or just feeling ashamed about yourself for no good reason, when you can accept that, you're basically loving yourself. And it's through the process of love that vibrations are released. Anything is released, or change occurs. Change occurs much, much more effectively through love rather than fear. Through fear, we can definitely modify our behaviors in a way that you say, well, I've changed. But energetically, all you've done is layered a new habit on top of the old shit, right? When you change from fear, you've basically said, it's wrong for me to be this way, that way, and now I'm going to be this. And so you put it on top. When you allow yourself to be embraced in love, which I know sounds wishy-washy and all the rest of it, but basically it's this process of acceptance, right? When you allow yourself to not be wrong about the fact that you're feeling wrong, and you accept that, and you love yourself anyway, you know that you're okay anyway, then those vibrations from beneath can release out of your field. They become less pervasive, or less pertinent, or less important in your energetic field. They become less influential in your energetic field, and then new behaviors arise from that fertile ground, and you have made what we would call much better transformation than when we try and change ourselves from a space of fear, which I know wasn't your question at all, but it came out. So hopefully that's helping you or someone else who's watching this or will watch this. Anyway, I also wanted to talk about what a good sister wrote in. How am I going for time here? I've got 13 minutes left. It's 10:17. So dropping out of guilt and shame right now, and it might well rear its head here. I am going to attempt to read as best I can. I can probably make it bigger on my little MacBook here. Oh yes, technology. So let's read this from Sister Jen about receiving what we really want, which is the first part of her thing, and the true purpose of romantic relationships. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of the backstory here. I've manifested this wonderful man into my life, and find the energies arising of fear of receiving him fully into my heart, in part because of the not good enough energies, in brackets. If I receive him and allow myself to be seen fully, then I may be rejected, and if I were to open myself up and create a deeper connection with him, then I would create another codependent attachment that would be incredibly painful to release. And I want to pull you up there, sister, and just say, are you sure it's going to be a codependent attachment that you create, or is it going to be a beautiful, heartfelt connection that ultimately will be painful if it fails? Because it's kind of like you're making yourself, you're putting this wrongness on top with this, labeling it as a codependent attachment to a very beautiful experience of relating to someone heart to heart. Because heart-to-heart relationship and interaction does not need to be a codependent attachment, although, of course, it's a blurry line. Anyway, I'm going to keep going on. It's all rather intense. Everything's intense at the moment, sister, and so that's absolutely fine. It feels like this hesitancy around receiving is further amplified by underlying false beliefs about the purpose of relationships that is causing unnecessary anxiety and fear. Quote unquote, or not quote unquote, in brackets, I'm questioning the whole idea of soulmate versus us choosing who we bring into our life to learn what lessons in what ways. I know that is a lot, and I'm definitely am in a place of, in capitals, a lot right now. Okay, so let's switch into this last little bit first. I'm going to put that down and hopefully just be able to talk to all of that in the next 10 minutes. So yeah, great. Let's let go of the idea about relationships having to be a should around soulmate and soul contracts and this idea of predetermined outcomes from romantic relationship. Because it's not serving us. And to the same end, understand of, the second part of your question, as opposed to bringing in, just people who we desire to, recognize that generally who we desire to bring in on that deeper level, they are soulmates. And it's not about trying to recognize and classify whether someone's a soulmate or not. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But the whole purpose of the understanding around soulmates is to give you some understanding as to why things are so complicated with people we fall into deep relationship with, people we fall in love with at this deeper level. Generally we have danced with before, and that is why things are not nearly as obvious as you might like. So I've just realized that I haven't allowed the things to keep scrolling. Oh my god, there's a huge amount of comments here. Sorry my friends, I haven't been reading the comments because I left it sitting on someone. Yep, anyway, I'll read it all afterwards and catch up with it. But if anyone comments, I will be able to see it now because I've scrolled to the end of the list. I wondered why the comments weren't moving. Anyway, so the idea is, the understanding around soulmates is that you've danced with many of these people before, and therefore there are various energetic triggers or energetic fragments of energy that are in the field that flare up for what you might perceive from your mental intellectual way of looking at the world as you're living it right now as making no sense. So you say something and all of a sudden this person who you're falling in love with reacts to it in a way that makes no sense. And you go, what the F is up with that, right? This is intense. Why are we so intense about this so quickly, right? It doesn't make sense to our intellectual mind. But when you understand that these people are soulmates, people who have, or souls that have habitually come together in various levels of relationship before, whether it was, a spouse relationship, whether it was a parental relationship, whether it was a friend relationship, a work relationship, all sorts of ways that, our soul group has danced together before. So we meet these people and we feel a very strong connection to them, a kinship to them, and we tend to, quote unquote, quite often with some of them, fall deeply in love with them quite quickly and without any real foundation in the mental structure that we do the world with. And so it can be very, magical, and it can be very intense, and it can be quite confusing for your mind. Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling about these people? Why do they trigger you so deeply? Why are you so concerned with gaining their appreciation or their affection or their acknowledgement? All of these things don't make sense. If it was just someone who's just come into your life without this history, this past life history, then things would happen in a much more logical way. Things would progress more slowly as well. So understand that for a start. And so now the question, if I remember correctly, was around what is the purpose of relationship? Okay, so, and you're talking specifically about romantic relationship, but let's talk about relationship in general to start with. We, as God Source Universe, all of us, decided to start splitting ourselves up and creating these individuations of ourselves so that we could relate to ourselves. Because if there is only one, there is no relationship. Relationship is the key to how we're gaining wisdom as a being, God. As God is creating its wisdom through the experience of various sections of itself, because it divided itself up, relating to each other. So relationship is really the key to the whole of existence. This is why this whole manifestation has occurred, to create experiences of relationship where we relate to other aspects. And we quite often say, as facilitators of transformation, as healers, as coaches, life coaches, that our external relationships are all mirrors of our internal relationship. So what is this internal relationship? This relationship we have with ourself. What do you mean? If there's only one, there can be no relationship. So who is relating to who when we're having this relationship with ourself, right? Because even ourselves as the microcosm has split itself up into various aspects. We have an emotional aspect, we have a mental aspect, we have a soul aspect, we have an energetic aspect, we have a physical aspect. We have these different aspects of ourselves and we relate to each of those. And now when we talk about what is my relationship to myself, what part of you is relating to what part of you? Because there is multiple parts of you. Which part of you are you identifying with when you are looking for the relationship with yourself, right? Generally, for most of us, it's our mental self wanting to have a relationship with our soul self or our spiritual self or our heart-based self or even our emotional self. And of course, it's also important for our mental self, which we perceive as ourselves, right? Because most of the time we're driven by our mentality, although some of us now on this planet are starting to overcome that and have a much broader living foundation. I don't know if that's the right word. We have a more broader foundation to what we choose to be ourselves. Our ground zero or our reference point for how we're doing the world is shifting from just being this mental construct, right, which is how we've done the world in the past, to being more soul-based or heart-based or wholesome, more inclusive version of ourselves. We're now viewing ourselves more habitually from a more inclusive or expanded version of ourselves, not just our mind and how we're interacting with the world from our mind. So this relationship with self is ever evolving, and so too are our relationships with everything else, whether it's our car keys, our water bottle, the things that we habitually carry around with ourselves. A water bottle has a relationship. It's like, where the frick's my water bottle? Our wallet, our purse, our money, our car, our house keys, right? We have relationships to all of these things because they are a big part of how we live our world, and certainly people who come into our lives, our parents, our children, our spouses, our friends, our work colleagues, our mentors, our clients, right? We have relationship to all of these things that we interact with consistently. Just making sure comments are not coming in. So what is the purpose of romantic relationship? It's for you to have a deeper experience of who you are. That's it, basically. All of our relationships are for us to gain wisdom, to allow ourselves to express who we are in a bigger way. In a bigger way doesn't necessarily mean in a more extravagant way, but it means it could mean in a deeper way, it could mean in a more expansive way. It's for us to gain new nuances or insights into who we are. That's why we choose to have relationship. That's why we are drawn into romantic relationship. I know there's a whole, hormonal thing going on with attraction and sexual desire, and all of that too is all part of it, no doubt. And of course, from a mentality point of view, there is definitely a need for, many of us have a need for sharing. We have a need to feel that we belong. We have a need for companionship, right? To share things with habitually, and we enjoy having someone in our life that we can share things with in an ongoing way. And while we do have friends and we have other, there's various layers to this, but a romantic relationship allows us to have that communion at a deeper, more intimate way. So yeah, it's important, MK, that we do allow ourselves to enjoy our physicality, right? And various layers, whether that's, a sexual experience to really feel the intensity of our physicality, or whether it is just very, very simple touch and communion and companionship is also definitely a way of enjoying our physicality, the way that we relate things, doing activities with people who we are close to, who we allow ourselves to be intimate with, which is not necessarily close off in bed intimate, but, you know, into me see, right? Allowing people to be close and to see us as, you know, more and more real, more and more open, more and more available on all levels, vulnerable on all levels. So yeah, physicality is an important part of relationship, how we relate to ourselves, and also how we relate to other people, and enjoying and allowing ourselves, you know, to get out of this idea that spiritual people don't get too caught up in the physicalness, the physicality of relationship, right? That somehow pleasures of the flesh is wrong. No, I'm not wearing a fake wig, so either it's my bald head or it's something to do in the reflection. I didn't quite catch the name. Lie, is it? Lie Ray. But anyway, allow is the best. Exactly, Robin. So allowance of whatever's going on, and allowance of however you choose to do relationships. So, you know, some people are not so connected physically, and so it's not such a big deal for them not to be physically intimate in relationship, because for whatever reason, that's not a big deal for them. Now, it might be that they're suppressing something. It might be that they're not willing to look at something, or perhaps they are just over it, right? That it's not a big deal for them. It's not their soul's calling in this lifetime. So there's no wrongs and no rights. And while we can see various layers and levels on all in all ways in our relationships, we can see, you know, some of us are hiding emotionally, some of us are, you know, fearful mentally, some of us are physically, whatever, not able to fully show up. It's all a process, and that is the joy of relationship. It gives us the opportunity to be present, right? To be present with ourselves, and to allow ourselves to go through expressing ourselves and evolving, transforming, releasing old limitations and stepping into new ways of being. That is the purpose of relationship. I'm not sure if I've got fully through your question, Jan, so I'm going to flick back here. How am I going for time? Oh my goodness, I've gone well over time. How did that 13 minutes all of a sudden stretch out to over 20 minutes of talking? Anyway, so I've gone well over time. This is supposed to be half an hour talk, but I will definitely quickly skim through this and see if I need to wrap anything up before I disappear. Can I talk about receiving what we really want? Well, the first part of that is, Jen, is to understand what we really want and to what aspect of us is really wanting it. Because, you know, there's really want and there's really want. Emotionally, you might really want something. Mentally, you might really want something. And egoically, you really want something. And on a soul level, on a heart level, you really desire something as well. So, in receiving what we really want, it's important to first get clear on what aspect of us is really wanting it, and then to find the allowance of how that might show up. Because quite often, you know, from egoic levels, we really want something to satisfy another lack that we have inside of ourselves, and we want it to show up in a way that we feel that we've created it. So we want it to show up in a way that we recognize is a manifestation of our desire. And quite often that just doesn't happen, and it leaves us disappointed. But it's not to say that we're not getting what we really want. So there's a lot to that. I could definitely talk for hours on, you know, receiving what we really want. It's a big thing. Hopefully I have answered a little bit more of the true purpose of romantic relationships, because it's not to do anything good, right and proper. It is basically just to give you the opportunity to express yourself in a deeper way, and thus gain more wisdom or a more expanded understanding of the truth of who you are. In my opinion, that is basically what the true purpose of any relationship is, including romantic relationships. Yeah, thanks, Robin. That's exactly true. I'm only over time according to the clock. Otherwise, yeah, I've just been encapsulating. And so the advice, Sister Jen, is to allow yourself to fall into this experience more deeply, and to be open to having the highest and best outcome occur, which might be painful, right? It might be painful, because until you are willing to risk being rejected, you are never going to be able to be fully received, right? Because you're not going to allow yourself, you're not going to open into that vulnerable space. So to reach the heights of living this life here on this planet, we have to be willing to die, right? We have to be willing to be hurt in order to step into the greatest forms of pleasure and experience, joyful experience. We have to be willing. We can only feel love to the same degree that we're willing to feel pain. And so it's a no-brainer at the end of the day, and I mean that in so many different ways. Get out of your brain, right, and really just follow your heart into this. Because the more that you keep trying to, think it over and start putting labels like, I don't want to form a codependent attachment, right? Codependent attachment is going to happen whether or not. The only way you're going to overcome forming codependent attachments is by allowing yourself to go through the process of loving deeply and dancing with the attachment that we all feel when we're deeply in love with someone, right? That's a process that can only be evolved in the process. We can't fix ourselves before we fall in love so that we don't get attached. It just doesn't happen. The only way to work through the perils of attachment, right, and the problems that come with attachment, is through being in the experience of dancing with attachment and finding the detachment in these deeper experiences to give the other person and yourself freedom while in deeply loving relationships. The only way you're going to get that is when you really fall into it and allow it to be present for you. So not wanting to, get codependent is not going to help you at this point of time. Being aware that codependency is definitely a peril of forming deeper relationships with someone is empowered, but don't come to it with fear. Keep reminding yourself that love is freedom. And as you find the deeper and deeper forms of love, you are also going to hear the voice of fear talking in your head about, not losing them and all of the attachment bullshit. And you're going to have to dance with that. We all have to dance with that. I'm doing it with my kids right now, who, are growing up and, going out in the world, and we can't protect them anymore. And while we love them deeply, we have to also give them the freedom to make their mistakes and do the shit that, teenagers do. Because being attached to their well-being is not serving them or me. Okay. Hey, beautiful sister Vesna. I hope I answered your question, or at least spoke to the shame issue well enough at the start of this. Anyway, my friends, this has now gone for 45 minutes or thereabouts, and I will call it quits at this. And I'm very, very happy to continue these conversations, because I in no way believe that we have come to a conclusion with talking about shame and guilt, nor have we anywhere near scratched the surface of talking about romantic relationship or attachment or anything else, getting what you want, anything that Sister Jen also brought up. So these conversations can continue. I will work as best I can to answer the requests and the questions that come as they come. So that's it, my friends. Much, much love to you all. That was Chat with Matt, episode 7. Share this with someone who you feel might benefit from it. If you want to look out for more of what I do, you can scroll down the Mantara public page. You can go over and have a look at the Mantara Big Love and Support Community, which is a free group site. It'll have ads in there for various things that I offer out. Or you can go to my website, mantara.nz, sign up to my newsletter, get a free MP3 on stepping into your personal power, and we will work from there. We'll give you some emails and some information about what we do, what we offer, and all of that stuff. If you really, really, really want to connect with me, just reach out to me on email, it's mantara@mantara.nz or NZ. And send me an email. Very happy to receive emails, very happy to answer emails. Much, much love to you all, my friends. Enjoy your sleep, Vesna. I know it's late for you in Europe. Much love. Speak to you all again this time, same time next week. We'll be here to continue chat with Matt. Much love to you all. Bye for now.